Welcome to TrueFire Live. We're broadcasting live from the studio with Luther Dickinson, man. I'm so excited about this broadcast. And, man, Luther's been on our radar screen for a real long time. His buddy and also new TrueFire artist, J.D. Simo, finally connected us. We got on Luther's schedule, and he's here. Man, call your friends, text, do whatever you got to do to get people tuned into this one. It's going to be very special. We've spent 2 days with Luther working on his first project. But you know, you should know Luther's pedigree, man. It's a mile long. He's the son of famous and very well-respected producer, singer, session player, pianist James Dickinson, who you've heard. Actually, if you've ever heard, you know, Wild Horses by the Stones, that was Luther's dad there. Luther grew up in North Mississippi Hill Country, recorded his first project at 14. Started North Mississippi All-Stars with his brother Cody in '96. Man, since then he's recorded with a ton of top artists: John Hyatt, Beck, Ry Cooder, Lucinda Williams, Levon Helm. The list is too long, but so many more cats of that caliber. You might know Luther because from, you know, the Black Crowes. He recorded, toured with Black Crowes from, I believe, 2007 to about 2011 when they went on hiatus. In 2011, the Americana Music Award House Band, Luther participated in, backed up Greg Allman, Robert Plant, Amos Lee. Plus, on top of all that, and on top of being an amazing, just an amazing player, just a beautiful person, extremely knowledgeable about the history of the blues and music, and very passionate about it. Luther is also a producer and has 4 Grammy nominations to his credit. He's here filming his first TrueFire course, Modern Mississippi Slide. Hey, Luther. What's happening, man?
Hey, man. Glad to be here.
We've had fun over these 2 days.
Man,
huh?
Brad, this is what a great opportunity. I mean, the technology, this environment that you've created to be intimately one-on-one with so many students, so many guitar players at once. It takes a huge burden off my shoulders because I just feel this I've been feeling this need and responsibility to pass along some of the things that I was so lucky to see so many cool things.
Yeah, Luther is, we've talked many times over the course of the last couple of days. You are super passionate about, you know, paying forward, you know, the music and the history of the music. You're so knowledgeable about it. Where'd that come from? I mean, you grew up in North Mississippi Hill Country. What was that like, man?
I'm only here because of the community, man. I owe it all to this wonderful musical community that I'm a product of. My father was a first generation Memphis musician, Jim Dickinson, a great rock and roll piano player. He sang and played piano on the last Yellow Label Sun single.
Wow.
The last actual Sun. So that kind of shows you where his age was at. He was like 5 years younger than Elvis. But I mean, talk about rock and roll heaven, man. Memphis in the 50s, hot rods. And and not only that, as a youth, he was with his father and saw Howlin' Wolf broadcasting live in a warehouse. He didn't know who he was. He heard this music as a little boy, like 8 years old, rushed up these stairs, looked through the window. It's a group of men huddled around a microphone. His father pulled him away. They went to the car, dialed in the old tube radio in that old beautiful car of the early mid 50s. And the DJ was like, and then, ladies and gentlemen, that was Howlin' Wolf, So he went to the record store, this was pre-rock and roll. So my dad, he was a great rock and roller and a great educator himself. I grew up hearing all of his stories.
Tell that story about how he came to be on Wild Horses.
All right. We'll jump ahead to 1970. And at this point, Dad was rock and roll. And this is after the folk boom and the blues rediscovery. So my father had a friend who was traveling with the Rolling Stones. Stanley Booth wrote a book about the Stones. And Stanley called Dad, and he's like, the Stones want to record in Memphis, but their work visa is up, and they have to be under the radar. Can you help me facilitate this? He's like, well, you can't come to Memphis. Memphis will go crazy if the Stones come. They want to go to Stax, which would have been amazing, but no work visa. So he said, you should go to Muscle Shoals. No one will know who you are. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, Stanley Booth called my dad. He's like, be in Muscle Shoals on Tuesday. We booked a session. So he showed up at Muscle Shoals and knocked on the door, and Jimmy Johnson, the engineer and guitar player, he answered the door. He's like, Dickinson, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm here for the Stones session. He was like, oh, no, does everybody in Memphis know? And Dad was like, nobody knows but me. Let me in. So he's hanging out. It was a 3-day session, 3-night session. They recorded it. They had sessions booked all day. Jimmy stayed up for 3 days straight, working in the daytime and engineering the Stones at night. The first night was You Gotta Move. Second night was Brown Sugar. And the third night was Wild Horses. Let me say the phenomena about the Stones recording that he told me was that as they worked, You Gotta Move, they struggled with that song. They tried different approaches. It was a Mississippi Fred McDowell song, the North Mississippi Hill Country Anthem. It's great that we get to mention that. Mississippi Fred McDowell, one of my greatest influences and the godfather of the guitar style that I come from. They're trying to record You Gotta Move, and they're trying different ways. And Dad said each night they would be so raggedly and just falling apart, and it would just try different things, just falling apart, just sound like nothing. And then all of a sudden, the moment would come together, and they would get the take, and it was amazing. The Rolling Stones. It was You Gotta Move. It was Wild Horses. It was Brown Sugar. Night after night. And the cool thing was there was no mention ever of trying it again. The first time they made it through the song, the first time it came together, that was it. That was the Rolling Stones.
And that's what we've been listening to all these years, huh?
That version, yeah.
Incredible, man. So you've called the course Modern Mississippi Slide. What is Modern Mississippi?
Modern Mississippi, man, I grew up, we talk about Mississippi, but we're outside of Memphis. I grew up in North Mississippi, just under the state line. My parents were Memphians, but they raised us in the countryside. At first in rural Tennessee, and then when I was 12, we moved to Mississippi. Coincidentally, that was when I started practicing the guitar in earnest. But Modern Mississippi, to me, it's a culmination of who we are. My friends, myself, and all the influences. Like my influences through my dad, once again, he knew firsthand and played with Furry Lewis, Sleepy John Estes, Bucka White, Reverend Robert Wilkins, like first generation acoustic bluesmen, and so and not only that, in the 50s he opened up for Bo Diddley. Like that's how he figured out open tuning guitar, was by watching Bo Diddley's hands, and he's saying, what is he doing? He's not making a chord. This doesn't make any sense. They had just opened up the show, my dad's high school band, and that's how they figured out open tuning. They literally had to figure it out. They stayed up all night. So modern Mississippi is like those influences with my own influences, which would be anything psychedelic rock. Jimi Hendrix, the Allman Brothers were heavily influential to me. Anything, be it dance music, be it rap, whatever, our generation brings to it. And then a big part of modern Mississippi are the bluesmen that I got to know. I grew up with my dad's stories of Furry Lewis and Bucka and Fred McDowell, and that was amazing. It was secondhand. It was their experience. And the blues that I liked, I thought it was a thing of the past. But in the mid-'90s, I got to know Otha Turner, which led the door to R.L. Burnside and his family, which opened the door to Junior Kimbrough and his family. Junior Kimbrough had a nightclub, Junior's Juke Joint. Every Sunday night we'd go down, Otha would throw barbecue picnics. Burnside would have Big Mama's birthday party. And these happenings, man, this music, all of a sudden, there it was, modern day, electrified, multi-generational country blues in my backyard. It blew my mind. It changed my life. And the music, it wasn't like the blues I'd heard before. Hill country blues, Otha Turner, my friend, he played the bamboo cane fife. So it's marching drums and bamboo cane fife with melody, with vocals. So it's all melody and rhythm. And that really sums up, be it Fred McDowell or Burnside or Otha, the fife and drum aesthetic of melody and rhythm kind of sums up the hill country style, because they obscure the harmony. Like a song, say, My Babe Don't Stand No Cheating, Oh, When the Saints Go Marching In, whatever, a song that has chord changes that you hear in your head. These musicians would obscure the chord changes and just be finger picking or beating out a drone underneath it. And this harmonic approach made the music sound more modern to us. It was very drony. It was we were drinking a lot of moonshine. I gotta say, it's not a coincidence that it's trance-like. There's this harmonic drone underneath these melodies created this tension that made this blues sound more modern and exciting.
Play us an example. Give us an example of that. Do you want a track, or you want to go solo?
Well, I'll just give an example of creating the tension, you know?
Okay, good.
My baby don't stand no cheating, my babe. Oh no, she don't stand no cheating, my babe. My baby don't stand no cheating, don't stand none of that midnight creeping, my babe. Sweet little thing, my babe. My babe, I know she love me, my babe. Oh yeah, I know she love me, my babe. Oh yeah, I know she love me. Don't do nothing but kiss and hug me, my babe. Sweet little thing, my babe.
Cool.
I mean, my babe, everybody knows it goes to the 5 chord, and you move to the 4, you turn it around.
Yeah.
But these guys would just hang. And so that made us, that harmonic drone in the bottom end, we could put dance beats to it. My brother and I, that's our mission, is to make this music, take an ancient melody that's been passed down through the generations and through the neighborhoods and make it danceable to young kids now, disguise it in a beat and a style and aesthetic that is palatable to young kids. They would never even know it's folk music.
Nice. So
that's modern Mississippi.
That's great, man. And what I love about this course is you do a lot of playing on it. It's all going to be tabbed out. Might take a year or two, but we'll get there. It's just awesome playing. You sing on it. There's some great lessons. We'll cover just a few of the topics here. But you tell some great stories and kind of anecdotes about kind of the why and wherefores of this music, which is a key learning in itself. If you understand something, where it came from, and why it came, you can kind of embrace playing it that much better, right? One of your themes is don't clear the dance floor. Talk about that.
Well, I'm glad I mentioned earlier, like Junior Kimbrough's Juke Joint. R.L. Burnside's wife, Big Mama's birthday parties, Oath Turner's barbecue picnics. So if you're there and you're a player, you're going to have to sit in. You're not allowed, and it's just a rite of passage thing. I'm sure there's similar phenomena in other cultures, in other areas of life. But if you're there and they know you're a player, you call yourself a player, you're going to have to play. You have to sit in. And if you get to sit in, oh my God, I'm going to sit in at juniors. Oh, okay, oh man. And you clear the dance floor, you're done. You're done. That's the worst thing that could happen to you. I remember in both occasions, Junior's Duke Joint and our Oathers barbecue picnics, you'd be sitting there doing your best, trying to play a song. Our community, this community, there was a repertoire, a shared repertoire. Everybody played the same songs in different styles. This family had this style, this family had this style, our family had our style. Not to include ourselves, but we were a musical family. And we, by learning the repertoire, that's why we started the band, was to participate in this regional tradition. So everybody played the same songs. If you sat in, you had to play all night long or jump around the line. And you had to do it well enough not to clear the dance floor. I remember specific occasions. I'd be sitting there on the bandstand, which is a porch, and trying to do my best. And there's some old guy in my face tapping me on the shoulder. Hey, man, they told me you could play. You ain't playing. Hey, come on, man. You're like, oh, leave me alone. I'm trying to play. I'm trying. And another lesson they used to shout out, say, make it say what he says. Like if there's a singer. Like it was part of the regional vernacular, of slide guitar, rephrasing the vocal,
Killer, man. What an experience.
Big Mama's birthday party,
Yeah.
R.L. Burnside, he was my hero. Great guitar player, songster. He called me on the phone, invited my brother and I to come play at his wife's birthday party.
Wow.
So now we say in Mississippi, you're having a good time when you got your amps in the dirt and their extension cords running out the windows. You know you're about to have some fun. You know you had some fun when you're wrapping up your cord and you got to wipe it down. It's so muddy that you got to wipe it down.
Man.
Burnside would invite us to play. He'd set up lawn chairs right in front of us in the carport, they called it, and he would sit there and request that we play his songs and sit there and laugh at us.
Really?
It was like, it was hilarious. And part of what we did, Modern Mississippi, was we interjected traditional psychedelic jam sections into the North Mississippi repertoire. Like All Night Long is a modern dance number, and we started playing Love Light, the classic Love Light. We would go major, big shift, and Poe Black Maddie, a song of Burnside's. We put like a Dreams type Allman Brothers chord progression in that, so we could break free and experiment in some improvisation in the middle of this traditional hill country song. And we're sitting there playing for Burnside, and Cody's like, my brother's on drums. He's like, go, man, go, make the change. I was like, no, I don't want to. Let's not do it. He's like, go, do it. I was like, okay. So we make the change, and we go full psychedelic. And RL just starts laughing more and more. They're crazy. So.
But did they dig it, or
Yeah, they dug it. And it was funny is that some of the riffs, not only each family would play these songs different, each family member had different styles of playing the same songs. And, it's like, oh, that's Dave's part. Or, yeah, well, Dwayne does it like this. But, yeah, you remember Purnell, he invented this part. And then some of our little licks and lines and progressions made it into the community's vernacular.
Like the language of it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Hey, would you play Die Down?
Sure.
Would you do that for me?
Well,
not just for me, but for everyone who's watching. By the way, we've got folks tuned in from the UK, Indiana, Central Mississippi, Maryland, Austin, Australia, the Ukraine. We got some South Mississippi folk in.
My people.
South Wales, San Francisco, France, Oregon, Austin, Maryland. So it's crazy, these broadcasts in different time zones all around the world, man. A lot of people dig the blues,
My dad used to say, "World Boogie is coming."
There
Maybe
you
it's
go.
here right now.
Hey, We're doing it right now.
This song, Mino Wind Died Down, I wrote it a long time ago, and it was the first time I sat down and I wanted to write a hill country style melody, like Othar Turner would play on the fife, like almost a gospel style melody. And we've got a great drum track to play along with on Mino Wind.
Want the track?
It's my brother playing drum set, and Dwayne and Gary Burnside and myself playing marching drums, fife and drum style.
Very cool. Tommy, you got that one? Aha.
The hill. I live down in the valley, everything is still. I hear the wind blowing way up top the hill. Climb to the top of the tallest tree. Mino wind died down. Climb to the top of the tallest tree. Mino wind died down. I want to feel the way it sounds, but the Mino wind died down. Set me free, gravity bound. Set me free, gravity bound. When I die, let me fly, nothing but a sound. Set me free, gravity bound. The Mino wind died down. Mino wind died down. Mino wind died down. Mino wind died down. Don't bury me in this cursed ground. When I die, let me fly. I am nothing but a sound. Don't bury me in this cursed ground. Mino wind died down. Mino wind died down. Mino wind died down.
think I speak for everyone when I say we could just sit here for hours and hours and hours listening to you play, man. And tell your stories. And, that explains why everyone here at TrueFire has been spending a little too much time in a control room, finding reasons to come on in here and listen to this stuff. That's fantastic, man. Tuning, what tuning are you in? They're asking.
My favorite is open C.
Okay.
It's the same shape, same intervals as open E.
Yeah.
Dwayne and Derek trucks.
Yeah.
And open D is real common. Fred McDowell liked open D. But I found open C just for my voice.
So that drop down yet another whole step from open D, right? Very nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, one of the themes in your course that we really dug, and I think folks are going to dig, is your whole kind of way at looking at horizontal melodies, right? And why that's so important, not just for a slide player, but for any player, really in any style. Talk about that a little bit, would you?
Of course. I first came across it with slide, studying Fred McDowell and Blind Willie Johnson and the great slides. And you just simply play the melody, on one string, two strings. You can play any melody with two strings and just up and down, And I grew up studying chords and scales and boxes and thinking of the guitar as vertical. But as soon as I started thinking about the guitar horizontally, my whole horizon opened up, It's like, because I became intimate with where the intervals were, where the notes lie, where the colors lie. Once my ear and my hand and my heart and imagination became familiar with the fretboard, then you realize it doesn't matter what tuning you're in or what key you're in or what chord is being played. You can never get lost if if your hand knows this way, and just, and then once you start studying string relationships, be it a fifth or a third or a minor third, once you learn the relationship of any two strings, then your whole universe of different tunings or whatever opens up. Because it doesn't matter what tuning you're in once you know how the intervals react under your hand. And it's just been, I use it as an example. I love teaching. Right? We have a rock and roll camp. We teach a lot, and it's an important thing. And I use it for beginners to familiarize themselves with the fretboard, one string at a time, horizontal melody.
Makes a lot of sense, right? Is it, imperative to understand that for slide playing, or any finger style, flat pick?
I think it helps anybody, no matter what. Have you ever picked up a guitar it's missing a string, and all of a sudden you write something cool? You're like, oh wow, I never would have played that if the G string had been in there. It's like it's funny how the freedom and limitations, and I do a lot of playing on coffee cans and cigar boxes and homemade instruments that have 2 or 3 strings, and I like doing that. It just triggers new things in my imagination, and the physicality of how you have to play it. It's all inspirational, and I think it helps anybody to learn like that. And Jimi Hendrix did a lot of it. It was my favorite. Like, besides Hill Country Blues, psychedelic rock, be it the Allman Brothers and Jimi Hendrix, are my greatest influences. And Hendrix did a lot of that one string. He would slide up and down one string, hammering on and pulling off. As a real trippy waterfall psychedelic move that he would make, fingering. And
what about the traditional, say, North Mississippi players? Were they more horizontally oriented or vertically oriented?
Well, Fred McDowell, he was the king, the king slide player, and he played both. And he would have his melody would be horizontal, like say when we did My Babe earlier, or the way I did Die Down. So his melody. that would be a style for his melody, but then his riffs would be vertical and they'd be just heavy. It was a beautiful blue juxtaposition of major melodies with minor riffs. I'm just improvising, but that's an example of how Fred would use vertical. And horizontal.
Very cool. I loved the section where, you were talking about octaves and then harmonizing. Start with octaves. Show us a little bit of that.
I came across it. I learned a lot from the Sacred Steel players, Robert Randolph, Roosevelt Collier, A.J. Gent, and the older generation. But I'm friends with a lot of Sacred Steel lap steel players and pedal steel players. And man, oh my God, when it comes to slide guitar and vocalizing the guitar, they are the ultimate. And I saw they were playing octaves. And the way I don't know how they do it, but the way I do it, I have to literally shift my arm and use these two fingers to mute. And when you're in open tuning, you have octaves here and you have octaves here. So let's start on these two strings. So I shift down. It's a funny thing because in the heat of the moment of improvisation, you have to take a moment, take a breath, and mute these strings. Then you're ready to roll. Shift up.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, especially if you're in the middle of something and you need to take it up a level. It helps beefing up your melody, while at the same time it slows you down just enough to where you can bring your melodic energy down in your improv and while get heavier at the same time. So give the listener something to bite onto before you bring it home.
Now show us the harmonizing thing.
All right.
I love that.
So
and tell us why you had to learn how to do that too.
Well, my brother and I, we always played in a duo or a trio, and a lot of great guitar player friends, but we never found the chemistry, until recently. It was grown men to have the right guitar players to play with. So therefore, as a huge lover of the Allman Brothers, I had to play both parts. So I learned almost, all those crazy Allman Brothers harmonies, by myself. And the cool thing about Allman Brothers harmonies is that there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's so guitaristic. They go between parallel fifths and fourths and thirds and sixes, and they're just and they were just freestyling just by looking in. Here we go. All right, you ready? Let's move up. Okay, and it's just such a beautiful style of guitar harmony. So trying to learn to do that myself, I started, with just simple double stops. Then I was like, wait a minute. If I use the inversions of the chords on the slide, I could do it with the slide.
Cool. Hey, roll, what is it? Up Over Yonder.
All right.
And play a little bit with the octaves and then
Cool.
shift into some of the harmonized stuff, would you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And because it's all about the melody, starts horizontal.
Beautiful, man. That's great stuff. By the way, Poland, Italy, Memphis, New York City.
What's happening?
They're all dialed in now.
What's happening?
And we've got a lot of gear questions. We'll save that for the end, but there's some great questions there, and hopefully you'll save a little bit of time and run down all your gear.
Hey,
right?
it's easy. That's a short list. Hey, Tommy, that's a good beat for Let It Roll. If we play Let It Roll, let's use that beat right there.
Speaking of which, we can use Let It Roll to talk about vibrato. I really, vibrato's such a big thing. You have an unbelievable range of vibrato styles. And I really love the lesson on letting the weight of the slide kind of, can you talk about that and the different vibrato styles? Give them a taste of that for me.
Of course.
And then go into, roll, let it roll.
All right, let it roll.
Let it roll.
The weight of the slide, I learned from Ry Cooder completely. My dad worked with Ry Cooder a lot. I met him a handful of times, and what a slide monster. It's like growing up with people like Ry Cooder in my life, my whole childhood, it's like, open tuning, slide guitar, finger picking. That's just how a guitar is. To me, it was just as normal as standard tuning rock and roll with a pick. Vibrato, Cooder plays with a huge bottleneck. And it's a very heavy. His hand is huge, and he has a huge bottleneck. And I learned it from him. He said, if you imagine a windshield wiper, and you let the weight of the bottleneck pull your hand back and forth, then that's how he likes to get a nice natural vibrato. And an example of not like shaking your elbow, like coming at it like this, it's a nice loose motion. Interesting thing about that is the lower the notes go, the wider the vibrato. It's tight up top, but wide and loose down below. And that's just one of the ones I like. Mississippi Fred McDowell used the same thing, but his hand was tilted like this. It's almost like B.B. King's famous hummingbird. But another one that Honey Boy Edwards had a beautiful oval shape, almost like a figure 8 type of vibrato. And in the heat of the moment, it's hard to get it right. But one of the things I like about bottleneck vibrato, of course, is that you can flatten the note. It can be blue. But also it can be pitches, like really wide. It's much more evocative than simply just sharpening the note with traditional fingerstyle vibrato.
Let it roll.
Let it roll.
I don't know what else to say, really.
I could go on and on and on.
Yes, you
I don't
sure
know how
could,
long
man.
I should play.
We could go on and on just listening to you. You know, one of the things that we picked up in the control room watching this is you're such a good teacher, man. And
Thank you.
while, to get where you're at, you would have had to gone through, what you went through as a kid and grown up with all that. But you've done there's so many moves and let's say riffs and licks and techniques that you've taught us that, we can learn from you, and put into our own playing. And, if there's a mission, you've definitely accomplished that mission here. And we really, really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we have a really, let's call it vibrant blues student body. They love the blues. And I'm sure folks are just going to eat this stuff up. And by the way, this is just one part of Luther's bag, okay, this slide thing. And we figured we'd start with slide. But there's so much more, there's a whole, we've talked about other projects we're going to do, improvisation, some of the finger picking stuff,
Unlocking the other tunings, I think, would be fun.
Oh, man, the tunings, absolutely. So, this is the first of what I hope will be many. And Luther is as tuned in as we are to kind of the purpose of this, which is, hey, this is going to be great, all of us can learn from you today, but it's all about kind of paying it forward and documenting this stuff so that it's remembered, forever, right? And you do a great job of that.
Thank you.
By the way, Russia just tuned in, Moscow.
We've had some good times.
So I think we have all the continents covered now. It's amazing, music, the universal language. We were talking about that. It kind of brings us all together,
World Boogie is coming.
World Boogie, exactly. It is happening, isn't it?
Modern Mississippi.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say, man.
Go.
Before we move on, is that one thing I tried to do is I like to make the guitar fun and easy. If you're a beginner or intermediate or you're even advanced, hopefully there's something you'll find something in there that you hadn't thought of before. But especially for the beginners, I really want to demystify the guitar, and there's I've got some finger picking breakdowns that it's just basic, as basic as waving your hand hello, and then just move right into more advanced, intricate finger picking work, and just trying to, like people did for me. When you see somebody who can break it down and clarify it and make it easy, I think it's helpful, man, because then you don't get frustrated, you get inspired, and you're like, oh, I could do that, or, as opposed to, it's the same as not clearing the dance floor. It's like when I'm playing for a group of people, you want to communicate, and you want to make people feel good, and especially as guitar players, that's a challenge, because guitar can be such a internal thing. We grow up, half of our time is practicing by ourselves, then you spend time playing with other musicians and then getting those hours in, but then you play for other people, and you have to, everything that you've internalized and thought about, you have to just throw it away and just give it all to them. It's like you let the music come through you, through your guitar to the people, and if you can translate and evoke a feeling in the people, or just evoke a rhythm that's so infectious that people dance, that's what it's all about. That's what music is, like a celebration of life, It's not, for me, it's not to showcase these things that I've been working on.
And, and that's what you did throughout this massive course you put together, You've made it... we call it accessible. It's very, very accessible.
Love
it's
that.
not, while it is a master class, because we have a master here teaching it, you've made the information accessible, and you've given us enough to be dangerous, and enough to, embed a little bit of that into our own voice and to our own playing. And that helps to keep the music alive too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's talk about. Hey, first of all, you've been playing in open C.
Open C,
right? Change your tuning. Let's do.
All right,
some
let's move
tunes. Where are you going?
Let's move up to standard.
Okay.
Open G is a great one.
Yeah.
Which I also enjoy down in the open F.
Yeah.
It's a great classic shape. I love standard tuning, of course, but I prefer E flat standard or D standard.
Yeah.
But good old standard tuning is home base. Back home.
Wait. What is home base?
Standard tuning.
Standard tuning for you.
And
Home
in
base.
E, but like Jimi Hendrix in E flat or any of so many great guitar players.
Yeah.
Use E flat standard.
Yeah.
Or D. Back home, Junior Kimbrough always played in E standard or D standard.
Mm-hmm.
Open D was big with Fred McDowell, and Open G. R.L. Burnside used Open G in standard. It's just part of your trick bag, like what tunings. My friend Rich Robinson, he literally has, like, at one point we were up to 10 tunings that he was playing. And it's whatever inspires you. He would use the tunings as songwriting tools.
So when you play live, do you have more than one guitar up on the stage?
I have to have at least 2, if not 3, but I prefer to have 5.
Yeah.
But that's so I can play anything in my repertoire.
Yeah.
At the drop of a hat. I can just
Right.
and I keep them in alphabetical order:
Right.
C, D, E flat standard, E standard, G. And I'm really tempted to go D standard and G would be a F.
Yeah. So why would you shift from C to D? If C's better for your voice, right?
Yeah, I prefer singing in C.
But
my
why
friend
would you shift to D, which is the same, relationship, right? Same. Why would you shift?
Well, the real reason is my friend Sade, Othar Turner's granddaughter, she carries on the bamboo Mississippi, the cane fife. She carries that tradition along. Okay. He taught her, and she's one of our favorite collaborators. And she sings and plays the fife and the drums.
So she'll play in D.
Her fife is naturally somewhere close to D.
Okay, got it.
So you have to. And it's funny you say that. Why do I do that? Because without Sade, I do just phase D out and use C.
Yeah.
I tried C sharp for a while.
Why would you have E flat and E?
Well, because like my brother likes E standard, so we have and he plays keyboard as well with our band. He'll play drums with these limbs and keyboard at the same time.
Right.
And so
for
the keyboard keys,
you'll shift a whole step or a half step basically to accommodate another players.
Other musicians.
Right,
yeah,
got it.
Yeah. Left to my own devices, I would just be in C all night long.
If you were really, I was just going to ask you, if you were on a desert island, you could only have one tuning. What would it be? Be C.
It would be. I love C. I really do. I've grown to love B. In the morning, I'm a B flat man. But as my voice wakes up, I rise up to C.
That's funny, man. So, what gauge strings are those?
Light. My style is light, loose, and loud.
So,
these are 10s.
10s.
Yeah, tuned down. The action's a little high.
Tune down to a C, isn't that low E string really kind of wonky?
Yeah, it is. They are. But the technique, that's the way I like to play. I like when I say light, loose, and loud.
Yeah.
Then you have to have headroom. The way I play, I have friends who are completely different. They like low wattage amps, low wattage speakers. They love the distortion. They love the drummer to be louder than them, and they're just pushing and driving.
Yeah.
But that's not me at all. I want headroom. My guitar is usually really loud, but you can never tell.
Right.
Like I might let you know for a moment how loud it could be.
And is your action, high?
High
with
enough.
Such light strings and slide.
It's a nice combination. When you have light strings, the high action helps.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah. Derek Druck, I could give a master class on just the things I've learned from my friends.
Yeah.
Like Derek, he plays 11s, but his action is really low. Like you can actually hear him. You can hear a chromatic run in his slide work if he wants.
You tuned up?
Yeah, I'm pretty close.
Play Snakes in My Bushes.
All right. This is in the style of Junior Kimbrough. Let me get my reverbs together. Junior loved have lots of reverb. So this is a song of mine.
What tunings, real quickly, when you were with the Crows, what tunings what would you play with them?
Well, it's funny. It's like the Mick Taylor era Stones, like the classic Crows, Mark Ford, era. Crows is standard tuning, and that's part of what makes the Black Crow so fun. It makes
standard E.
Yeah, just
or E
standard.
flat?
Yeah, just standard. Yeah, pretty much the whole night. Because Rich has all those huge chords and all the open tunings, and you're just playing standard on top. Cross tuning, we call it back home. That's what makes it interesting.
All right, there's snakes in my bushes. Awesome, man.
Junior Kimbrough, man. Junior was one of those players like Django or Jimmy. A lot of Jimmy's work was just these two fingers. Junior, I don't remember if I was using it when I just played that, but Junior did most of his work with just these two fingers. Anyway.
Crazy.
If your hand is this big, it will.
Yeah. They can do more with two fingers than we can do with 10.
Oh, man, yep.
How about, would you play 51 Phantom? I'm
Sure.
trying to get, as many tunes in here as we can. We're starting to run out of time, but if it's okay with you, can we go over a little bit?
Let's do it. 51
I'm
Phantom.
sure it's okay with everyone out there. By the way, Germany and Finland just tuned in.
What's up? This is an example. It's my song, but it's an example of R.L. Burnside style of finger picking. That's a classic hill country beat.
I got to read you one of the comments, okay?
Uh-oh.
Because this is what we've been talking about, and this is what you're all about, right? This is from the Stylings of Vigilance posted this just now. I haven't touched a guitar in almost 5 years because I lost my passion for it, but listening to Luther talk about and play some is sparking a little fire in my belly. Thanks.
That is fantastic.
That's what we've been talking about for 2 days, right?
Yeah.
It's all about that. Thanks for posting that, man.
Yeah,
Because
that warms my heart. That makes my day.
You know, it's definitely what Luther is about, and I will tell you, it's definitely what we're about. And I think, you know, we've all been there, you know, where you kind of, a lot of people call it, you know, you get into the rut.
I've been there.
You know, you don't want to touch your guitar. You're sick and tired of hearing yourself play. What would you suggest somebody do when they feel like that? I mean, it's okay to take a rest, right? But how do you get re-inspired?
It's like what happened to me from time to time. It's like a writer in the blank page or a painter in the blank canvas. You know, you look at the guitar in the corner, and you're like, ooh. You know, you're like, oh, what can I bring to it? What can, you know? There's no limitations. You know, it's just you and it. And I think a great thing to do is don't pick up of course you have to practice. Of course you have to practice. And there's practice time, there's performance time, there's fun time. At one certain point, I decided I've been practicing my whole life. I've been noodling my whole life. From this point on, every time I pick up my guitar, I'm just going to try and just improvise or compose or play the instrument. I'm just, even if it's just a G chord or whatever, I'm going to take it as a serious, and that's not to be intimidating, but it's not, I'm going to pick up the guitar and I'm just going to see what happens and just play it and take that piece of music for what it is. It's this moment in time when I pick up my guitar. And like this chord right here, I mean, you could play an E chord all day, but if your intention is to have fun, and if your kids are running around, or if your girlfriend starts dancing, or if there's a, you know, whatever, then just have fun with it. That's, you know, because if you're having fun, then the listener will have fun, and that's what it's all about.
And, you know, your whole, you know, one of the underlying themes about looking at the guitar horizontally, you know, especially in an open tuning, which is like unfamiliar territory for people that don't normally play an open tuning.
Right.
You know, you mix that with the horizontal playing, you know, you start making fresh sounds, you know, and sometimes hearing something fresh come from, you know, your own instrument.
That's right.
You know, it can be pretty inspiring. And, you know, hearing what you've done today certainly has inspired us here. We're all going to tune tonight down to open C, I'm sure, find our slides and start working on that. You also touched a little bit on, you know, playing behind the slide.
Yes.
Right? Who did that first?
Well, of course. I mean, we all learned it from
Yeah.
Sonny that I know of.
Yeah.
You know, Sonny Landreth, and he has a course as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but it just, I knew of it for years before I started doing it, and then once I started doing it, it's extremely addictive, and it really is.
There's a way to get inspired right there, right?
It just crept into my playing, but it's such a beautiful contrast for slide work because you have so many slinky. Like sometimes I hear a recording of myself and there's like so many out of tune. The pitch is ambivalent, like for the whole song, you know, it's like you're playing and it's like, oh, it's just pitch, 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 pitch. But if you play behind the slide, like, it's so nice and with your slide work to have those punctual, in tune, pitchy notes just pop through. giving all my lessons away today, baby. But
No.
it's beautiful.
We've got several hours of your lessons in the camp. You do that on Eaglebird, don't you?
Yeah.
Could you do that for us, please?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to.
We have a question. What musicians, one of the guys is asking, inspire you today?
Oh, man. It's a great question. I mean, my brother is a huge inspiration and a huge teacher for me. My brother, Cody, great musician, multi-instrumentalist, engineer, recorder, producer. He does it all. Like, I do my thing, and his thing is completely different and so inspirational. But, man, I mean, it's such a wonderful time. Like, just running around on the road, of course, we got to tour with Tedeschi Trucks Band. Derek is a huge, I mean, for as far as slide guitar goes, it's like, you have Robert Johnson, you get acoustic blues, you got Elmer James, early electric blues, and then Dwayne Allman, you got the Allman Brothers, boom, and then Derek. And it's like before and after. And it's an amazing thing about this, what we're doing, like teaching rock and roll vernacular, because like, Derek introduced so much into the vocabulary of slide guitar. When I first saw him, he was 14 years old and playing John Coltrane on slide guitar. Then he got into Indian classical music. Then he got into sacred steel and soul singing, and then he just now he just plays, and he's an avid listener too as well. Like he'll practice for an hour, but listen to music concentrated, for 4 or 5 hours. Like he's a really fun listener. Just go party and hang. He's a great DJ. But Derek, of course, man. There's so many. The Sacred Steel players are super, super inspirational. They changed the game when Sacred Steel music. It was around 97 or 98 when the first CD came out. This is a gospel style of lap steel and pedal steel that's been going on for decades and decades, and no one ever knew about it. And these cats, Roosevelt, Robert Randolph, A.J. Gent, that's the younger generation. Mm-hmm. And you know who inspired me now? The youth, like our rock and roll camp, the kids, like these kids, like 10, 15, these teenagers. A lot of them are doing the School of Rock programs, man. These players are monstrous, man. The repertoires they know, it's really inspirational. But what I want to say about Derek is that he introduced all those influences into the slide guitar vernacular. Well, now, there's a whole generation of players who sound like Derek, and that wide vocabulary, that's just what slide guitar is now. It's like when I was growing up, it was like, oh wow, Live at the Fillmore, like that's futuristic,
right. That's great, man. Let's talk about gear. Everyone's asking about the guitar. Let's start with that.
This is I was so fortunate to grow up in the Memphis area, and Gibson moved to Memphis. And not only did they move to Memphis, they exclusively made their ES guitars, their semi-hollow and fully hollow guitars, which are what I love. I grew up with my dad's 175 with old P90s from the 50s, and that helped create my aesthetic of what I like. Because I want the guitar to respond. I'm finger picking, open tuning guitar as if it was acoustic, like country blues acoustic guitar. But I want it has to respond like an acoustic. Because some guitars just won't do it. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. But then I want it to also respond like it was Jimi Hendrix, with, he's got the hounds of hell on a leash and they're trying to break through his whammy bar, just, because at full volume, I want to be able to, especially with a fully hollow guitar, with the slide, once you get controlled feedback, you can really sing with it. And that's something I love, is like that whammy bar style of freedom, but with the bottleneck. So I gravitate towards fully hollow and semi-hollow Gibsons. I love, I don't use many pedals. Here I've got, the heart of my rig is the tone bone, the radial tone bone. I like to have 2 amps. I like to have a clean amp and a dirty amp. Clean amp has delay, that I'm always got the tap tempo, because I use the delay to help keep me in time. I like listening to the delay. And then I have a dirty amp. So you have like a nice, clean, fat, direct sound, and then a dirty amp where the fuzz and the sustain just, actually the fuzz and sustain is the bed, and then the clean tone pops through. And then if I'm in the studio, I like to pan them out, hard pan them to where it almost sounds like a tight double. If you could have just my guitar, one guitar track, but sounds like 2 different guitars, because one's clean with delay and reverb or tremolo, and the other is just fuzzy. That's my favorite. And I love Fender classic reverb and tremolo, my favorite effects. I've got the pedals here. I've got too much reverb turned up sometimes, and I like to get the tremolo, not vibrato. Vibrato makes me seasick. I'm struggling enough to play in tune as it is. I don't need the amp wavering my pitch. But I love tremolo, pop staples, and I like to try and keep it in the groove as much as I can. But man, just let these hollow body guitars.
So that's an ES. What's the model?
Oh, this is called a 390. It's they started doing these miniature 335 shaped guitars.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I don't know the name. It had humbuckers. They did one with mini humbuckers.
Is that a 336?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it never looked right to me.
Yeah.
But when I saw this.
So what year is that? Is that relatively new?
Relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so ashamed that I lost a knob. I showed up to TrueFire missing a knob.
Oh, I think we'll get you a knob. Don't worry about it.
But
it's probably in your luggage,
The cool thing is that Gibson they gave me the opportunity to design a guitar. So this is actually the first prototype we did. And it's a nice neck, 325. And we copied the finish on my dad's 51 175, real dark. And but this is the first prototype, and I got it. I was like, this is cool, but it's just another 335. I was like, I love P90s. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's have a semi-hollow guitar with P90s. And because the right Cooter said, more springs the better, because it's just a reverb. Spring is a reverb changer, a chamber, be it down here or up here. There's still a Bigsby on it too. So I got to design a guitar, the LD1, and I love to have the P90s. In a recording studio.
Is it the size of that
Yeah.
one, or the
No,
size
it's
of
normal,
the 335?
Normal 335 size.
And is it out now?
Yeah, they made about 275 of them.
And do you the size thing, is that,
why
do you
I'm
prefer
playing
the larger size, or?
The reason I'm playing this guitar right now, for 2 reasons. If I'm playing loud with 100-watt amps, I like to have humbuckers for many reasons. I don't use boost pedals or distortion, so the humbucker is nice to drive the tube amp and to get it singing. But if I'm in the studio, I always gravitate towards the P90. I just love the springy acoustic quality of the tones. And the old ones from the 50s, the way the electronics and the old pickups, the old P90s, they're everything you need's right there. If you crank your amp up and work your volume knob, you can get a beautiful clean tone and as fuzzy as you want to get. It's all right there with a nice tube amp and the proper guitar. But in the studio, I like P90s. It's just a more pleasant tone to me. And the reason I'm playing this guitar is because I have to sit down, and it's comfortable. Like the full size 325, it's not a right thing. I try as I play, if I'm standing or sitting, to keep my arms at a right angle. And this has actually ended up being a little higher than I like, but hey, man, it's all good, whatever. Hey, I got public service now. Real quick, you guys, I woke up 2 Februarys ago. I couldn't make a fist. I totally blew my thumb out. This tendon this tenosynovitis, the iPhone, a lifetime of finger picking, no problem. But 5 or 6 years on Instagram, and it completely destroyed my thumb, and I had to totally rebuild myself. And just be careful with your iPhones. We are not meant to do this. It's not proper technique. It's not good for us.
Cool. I've never heard that, but that sort of makes sense, doesn't it?
iPhone destroyed my right hand, and now I'm having trouble here because I hold it.
Mm-hmm.
The devilish little devices that I love
Use
so
dictate.
much.
Don't do that. Just dictate your, speech to text thing.
Man, my vernacular is so strong.
Yeah,
Siri
that's
can't
true,
understand my slang.
So what have you got going? You have a new album.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about that.
It's Luther Dickinson and the Sisters of the Strawberry Moon. That's the name of the band. Luther Dickinson, the Sisters of the Strawberry Moon. The album's name is Solstice. It's coming out March 22nd on New West Records. I'm not singing. I'm playing a lot of guitar on the record, but I curated and produced this album to showcase these wonderful queens that in my community, so many great singers, and it's the second time I've done it. I was like, all right, these people need to know each other. Let's get Sade and Amy on drums and bass. Let's get Allison playing the banjo and clarinet. Amy Helm, come down. You need to get to know Lily Mae.
Nice.
So, New West allowed me to curate this record, and everyone brought 2 or 3 tunes, and we backed each other up and sang with each other, and it's a lovely, lovely, lovely record. Having children really changed my outlook, especially having daughters. I grew up just total running around with a bunch of dirty rock and rollers, just aggression and volume, but having daughters really changed the game, in acoustic music as well. But I love acoustic music and music that you can listen to late at night or early first thing in the morning.
Nice, man. We ran over a little bit. I don't see anybody complaining, but I want to thank you. I know we got to finish up some of the intro stuff for your course, and you have a photo shoot in a few minutes as well. How about playing? Well, I thank everybody. Would you play Yo Mama and take us out?